talk about clues from the linguistic context that specifically have to do with syntactic structure when we're trying to understand how children know what to guess for a word's meaning, right? So syntactic structure is talking about like the words that are used together, right, in a particular order. And it turns out that different grammatical or syntactic categories, that is nouns, verbs, etc., tend to have different meanings. It's not always true, but on a whole, sort of as a general kind of thing, nouns might refer to, say, objects, right? And of course there are lots of other things nouns can refer to, but objects is a pretty good category that corresponds to nouns a lot of times. And so once children have identified some syntactic categories, after about 14 months, they can use the syntactic structure, that is knowing how words appear together, how nouns appear, what frames in this case nouns appear in, as a clue to meaning, right? So those are goblins, those are daxes, right? Those are syntactic frames. Says, okay, the thing that follows, especially if it's got this plural marker on it, probably is a noun. Okay, so I know from the syntactic structure that this new word goblins is a noun. Nouns tend to refer to objects. This is the visual thing that we were looking at when someone said those are goblins. Maybe you're talking about all of these separate creatures, right? Because these are the objects in my visual scene. And so this is a very nice links-based video here that kind of goes over some of the syntactic structure use that kids harness. But just to give you a little bit more about how this process works, this is a study from 1957 actually. So if you look at this scene, right, there's some hands playing with some stuff in a bowl, right? And someone says, look, he's subbing. We're like, well, what is sub? And we're like, oh, well, you must be talking about that motion that he's doing. Why? Because the syntactic structure, that apostrophe s, the ing, verbs appear there, like he's mixing or he's fluffing or whatever it looks like he's doing there, but he's doing some actiony thing, right? Because it's a verb, and a verb is an action, and this is the actiony part of this picture. Versus if you say, look, a seb. Oh, well, that syntactic structure says a thing, right? And so it's a noun, it's a countable noun, like a thing, right? So I must be talking about the thing, the single thing that's there, right? Which in this case is the bowl. Versus if you say, look, some seb, the some is a syntactic clue that says, okay, some stuff, right? So it's a noun, but now it's a sort of a massy substance, stuffy type word. And what's the stuff? Well, that's this sort of confetti-like stuff, right? So depending on what linguistic context you use, what syntactic structure you use, you end up focusing on different parts of the very same visual scene. That is, the syntactic structure helps you narrow in on what this new label could be referring to.